everybody, and welcome to this special on Mars transiting in Virgo. I'm Amani. I'm a karmic, holistic, astrological life coach, and I like to go in depth in all that I do, and all of my interpretations, especially when it comes to Venus, Mercury, Sun transits and everything really, are based on Vedic astrology, which is based on where the planets or the luminaries, which are the sun and the moon, are any given time in the sky. And all times are in GMT time as well. So yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, so Mars enters Virgo on the 28th of July until the 13th of September this year, 2025, when Mars enters Libra. Yeah. So Mars enters Virgo at 3:30 p.m. GMT time on the 28th of July. It's making a conjunction with Mars, a semi-square with Mercury, a square with Venus, a quintal to Jupiter, an opposition to Saturn, a trine to Uranus, an opposition to Neptune, and a quincunx to Chiron, as well as an opposition to the Moon's North Node and a conjunction with the Moon's North Node and a sextile to the Ascendant. So I'm going to go into what each of this brings later, as well as making a T-square, which is happening between Saturn and Neptune, Venus and Mars, and a stellium between the Moon, Mars and the South Node. So the energetic frequency of this year's Mars entering Virgo is precision action, so focus action with healing service. So Mars in astrology is the warrior, right? Planet of action and desire and our motivation. All our drives, our food drives, our sex drives, our success drives, and he is trading. He's typical battle armor because naturally Mars is, rules Aries and lives in the first house. Right now it's going into the 6th house and Virgo energy, earth energy, and is more focused on service, still action, but more in, a precise way rather than the kind of like spontaneous way that can happen when Mars is in Aries, right? So think of it as a universal call to arms for perfectionists, healers, and anyone ready to channel raw passion into practical mastery. So I'm gonna, talk about all these aspects, but imagine, Mars as the astrological surgeon scrubbing in for operation transformation, right? And it wants to revolutionize how we take action in the world, bridging ego and service, So Mars entering Virgo represents a fundamental shift, change in how we channel our energy, take action and go after our desires and reach our goals. From the dramatic, heart-centered expression of Leo to the precise, service-orientated approach of Virgo. So when Mars, the planet of action, drive and passion, moves into Virgo, the sign of perfectionism, analysis and service, we're invited to transform our approach to achievement from ego-driven conquest to meaningful contributions that serve both personal growth and collective well-being. So Virgo is ruled by Mercury, rules precision, analysis, health, service, and the desire to improve and perfect, and also our day-to-day activities, 6th house rules work and all of that. So when Mars travels through this earth sign, our warrior energy becomes more methodical, our passion becomes more focused on practical results we can see, results we can implement into our day-to-day life, habits and thought patterns, and our drive can become more directed, our motivation, right, towards healing, helping and creating order from chaos. So this is the difference between a wild warrior and a skilled surgeon. Both require courage and precision, but one serves destruction whilst the other, serves healing. So positively, when Mars is in Virgo, we can have increased attention to detail and care in all actions, increased motivation for health, healing and service-orientated work. It gives us the ability to channel passion into practical, productive outcomes, gives us greater efficiency and organisation as we go after our goals. and it allows us to focus on perfecting skills and mastering a profession or craft, hobby, etc. project. We can have a desire to contribute meaningfully to others' well-being. We can take more of a methodical approach to problem solving and conflict resolution, and we can integrate physical action with intellectual analysis. But negatively, perfectionism can lead to paralysis or excessive criticism. We can nitpick and fault find in self and others. We can suppress our, anger and assertiveness, healthy anger that is, and assertiveness. We can overthink actions to the point of inaction. We can become overly focused on details while missing the bigger picture. It can also bring a martyrdom complex through excessive service to others. We can have anxiety and stress from unrealistic standards, and we can have passive aggressive behaviour instead of direct action. So the best use of this energy is to focus on improving health, organising your environment, developing practical skills and finding ways to serve others through your unique talents. It's an ideal time for detailed work, health improvement, skill development and creating systems that increase efficiency and effectiveness in all areas of life. In terms of how we can practically integrate this energy into our day-to-day life, as Mars stays in Virgo for just over 6 weeks, right? It wants us to develop detailed action plans for important goals, focus on health and fitness with systematic approaches, organise your living and working spaces for maximum efficiency, practice skills that require precision and attention to detail, engage in work that utilises your specific talents, and confront health issues with methodical research-based approaches, create routines that support both productivity and well-being. So in terms of the energies involved, so Mars represents action, desire and courage and the drive to assert your will in the world. And as the astrological warrior, Mars rules how we go after our goals, express anger, compete with others and channel our physical and sexual energy. It represents innovative leadership, passion and the courage to face challenges head on. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and it wants us to flow with precision, attention to detail, analysis, service and the desire to improve and perfect. It's a mutable earth sign and it thrives off order, efficiency and practical application of knowledge. It represents health, healing work, service to others and the ability to see what needs improvement and to take practical steps to achieve it. So combinedly, as I said, when Mars travels through Virgo, we experience the fascinating alchemy blend of passionate drive channeled through discriminating wisdom, thinking about the things that we do before we do it, taking a holistic approach to doing things for not only ourselves but for others. And this combination creates the ability to take decisive action based on careful analysis, deep thought, self-reflection, to fight for causes that truly matter and to express courage through service rather than conquest. It's like a master craftsperson who brings both passion and precision to the work. Every action is purposeful, every effort is directed through meaningful improvement. So transit Mars in Virgo teaches us that true strength comes not from overwhelming force but from skillful application of energy. Real victory lies in solving problems rather than creating them, and that the highest expression of warrior energy is in service to healing and improvement rather than domination and destruction. So in terms of how we can use this energy in real life, right, it wants us and gives us the opportunity to channel passion into service, improve our health and our day-to-day routine, and to continue or start to develop new skills that can benefit our psychological, emotional, physical, financial and spiritual health. It's a good time for detailed work you've been putting off that requires full attention, perfectionist projects without too much perfection, health and healing, and contributing to others' well-being through practical action. Negatively, without comfort effort, this transit can lead to perfectionist paralysis, excessive criticism, health anxiety or over-analysis of action and burnout from unrealistic standards or excessive service to others. Financially, we can take a methodical approach to financial improvement, and we can increase our income through health and service work, detailed budget analysis and practical investment strategies. Negatively, we can be too perfectionistic seeking in our financial planning, leading to inaction over analysis of financial decisions and health related financial expenses. Politically, there can be a shift in focus on healthcare policy, practical solutions to social problems, detailed policy analysis, service-orientated leadership, but negatively there can be political nitpicking, over-analysis leading to policy paralysis, perfectionist standards preventing practical progress, in terms of the materialistic social collective consequences. There can be a focus on health and service industries. We can find practical solutions to social problems. There can be environmental improvement initiatives and work-life balance improvements, but negatively there can be an increase or continuation rather of workaholic culture, sleep when you're dead mentality, perfectionist social standards, criticism-based social interactions, service industries overwhelmed by demand. In terms of the psychological consequences, we can improve our self-discipline, we can set healthy routines, we can focus on practical problem-solving skills, there can be integration of analysis with action. Negatively, we can have perfectionist anxiety, excessive self-criticism, analysis paralysis and suppression of healthy assertiveness. On the esoteric level, we can focus and we should focus on spiritual service work, healing abilities, continuing or starting the development of these, the practical application of spiritual knowledge and disciplined spiritual practice. Negatively, it can lead to spiritual perfectionism, over analysis of spiritual experiences and using service to avoid personal growth, and spiritual materialism. In terms of the symbolic meaning, it can positively help us perfect our creative skills and detailed artistic work. We can experience healing through creative expression. We can practically apply our creative skills and talents. Negatively, creative perfectionism can block us being creative. We can overanalyze the creative process. We can criticize our work or other people's artistic work, and we can just our work and other responsibilities can limit our creativity as well. So now I'm going to talk deeper about the aspects that Mars is making as it goes into Virgo this year, because this will flavour the whole period. Mars is in Virgo, so the moon conjunct Mars is applying at 2 degrees, and it adds to us being able to be passionate and feeling in our need to take practical action right now. It gives us the motivation, adds to the motivation for health and service work. It supports intuitive timing in taking action and gaining emotional satisfaction from productive work. Negatively, this aspect can lead to emotional volatility surrounding work issues, mood-driven actions or emotional criticism of ourselves and others. Positively, it can bring mental energy and quick thinking to action. It supports detailed planning and analytical problem solving. It can negatively add to the mental frustration, anxiety and excessive overthinking before we act, and the conflicts that can happen between, analysis, thinking and taking action. Venus is making a square to Mars. Now this is separating at 2.5 degrees, but it still influences us and it creates tension between love and action, and it motivates relationship improvements and it inspires beautiful service orientated work, so supporting Virgo's need for service here, but it can because it's separating, we can not integrate the theme of love and all the energies of love and action, and this can add to the conflict between our social life and work demands. Mars is making a quintile to Jupiter, and this is separating, and quintiles are sort of all energy in astrology, so we feel them more inward basically, but it adds to the expansive vision for detailed work. It supports services that reach many people and optimistic approaches to health and improvement and routine management and work-life balance, but negatively there can be missed opportunities for expanding service work or overly optimistic approaches to health and well-being without considering the practicalities. Mars makes an opposition to Saturn, so it allows us to be more disciplined and structured to the need for action, so it motivates us to set a routine and stick to it. It's applying at 7 degrees. It supports long-term commitment to health and service goals despite the challenges that come up, but it can create frustration and delays in action and authority conflicts or excessive self-discipline leading to inflexibility. Mars also makes a trine to Uranus, so this is also applying, and it allows us to have breakthroughs in our practical action and how we think about taking practical action. It supports revolutionary approaches to health, work and service, but negatively it can add to the restlessness with routine and impatience with detailed work, because we've still got Mars energy, Aries still influencing us here, and this can just make us not wanting to take the slow approach Virgo wants us to rush ahead, and this can lead to reckless behaviour and outcomes that we don't want. So it's very important to work with Virgo's need for detailed work and to making a plan, but use Mars to take the action on that plans and not to overthink too much. Mars also makes an opposition to Neptune, so this adds to the spiritual motivation for service work and allows us to be compassionate in our action, and it helps us develop collective healing. Negatively, it can add to the confusion about our life purpose and direction. It can drain our energy, and this can result in a tendency to avoid action through spiritual bypassing or overindulgence in drugs, alcohol, hookup and other things that in excess, so I'm not saying these things are wrong, but in excess is detrimental to our well-being and us being able to stick to our routine, because Neptune energy always brings the ability for us to ignore red flags, us wanting to avoid reality, so we love being lied to and lying to others, and avoidance in getting lost in fantasy, so we just need to watch out for that. We have to deal with our need for spirituality or emotional or psychological healing and nurturing or understanding or whatever that looks like for you, the ability to face our problems rather than run away from them. Mars makes a quinquex to Chiron, so it allows us to use personal healing experiences to help others through practical action. Negatively, it can create health issues. We can have a difficulty integrating healing work with practical action, or we can have wounded healer syndrome where we just I just can't do it because I'm too wounded to do it, or over focus on wounds, and not enough emphasis on the healed parts, Mars also makes an opposition to the North Node and a conjunction to the South Node. So these karmic aspects brings awareness of past life service abilities whilst challenging movement toward future growth through evolved action, taking those steps to change, getting outside of your comfort zone. But negatively, it can create attachment to the old and our comfort zone and patterns of action or service that no longer serve the highest growth. So sometimes we get used to helping others in a codependent or self-destructive ways, and we have to move away from that. Helping ourselves and others in healthy ways is the way to go. Mars also makes a sextile to the ascendant, so this creates confidence and practical action in personal presentation, as well as the ability to take initiative in social situations, but negatively it can lead to an overemphasis on personal improvement at the expense of, broader service and helping others. We can just be too focused on helping ourselves, even after the stage of, we have to do that inner work and personal development, but there does come a time that we could give back. Now, you don't need to give back to like hundreds of people. For some of you, it may be one person. We can all choose the way we want to give back. For some of you, it be in a public, open way. For others, it just be responding to people's posts on a random forum online anonymously to encourage and help them. Doesn't always have to be like taking a profession of a healer or anything like that. It can just doing anything to be helpful. Helping someone across the road, helping an older person with their shopping up some stairs. Just little acts of service. Doesn't always have to be big. Then there's a T-square, as I said, between Saturn, Neptune in Pisces and Uranus in Gemini and Mars in Virgo at 7% strength. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what a T-square is in astrology and the positives and negatives of a transiting T-square. So a T-square in astrology is when 3 or more planets. Normally, some people count points. I will only count a point, such as the moon's north node, if it was like conjunct a planet like Venus at the same degree, something like that in a T-square. I wouldn't necessarily include it on its own. So yeah, a T-square is when 3 or more planets form a right-angled triangle in a transit chart, and this configuration involves 2 planets being involved each other, creating tension, and a third planet squares both of the opposing planets, and this is why it's called like a T-square, because it looks like a T. And the positives of a transiting T-square include increased motivation for growth and change, opportunities for self-awareness and transformation, and the potential for breakthroughs in difficult situations. It can act as a catalyst for personal development and push us outside of our comfort zones. Negatively, we can struggle with decision making due to the conflicting energies. We can experience a heightened emotional intensity, leading to stress or anxiety and challenges in communication and our relationships. And it can also kind of bring eternal conflict to some of us as well, because of the external obstacles that come, or the internal thoughts of unresolved psychological, emotional and spiritual trauma that can come up. And dealing with these issues internally or externally that come up can require patience and resilience to overcome. So it brings tension, or adds to the tension between spiritual discipline, represented by Saturn and Neptune, and intellectual love, represented by Venus in Gemini, and practical action, represented by Mars in Virgo. So to resolve this energy, we have to integrate compassionate service with intelligent communication and precise action, focused action in service of our spiritual goals, not neglecting the need for love and empathy or intelligence and accurate communication and taking focused action, but merging them together, especially when we're looking after our spiritual or psychological and emotional needs. There's a stellium between the moon, Mars, South Node in Leo and Virgo. A stellium in astrology refers to a powerful cluster of planets that are closely grouped together in the same sign, house or degree orb. So if a planet's in the 29th degree of Gemini, and then we've got one planet in the 7th degree of Cancer, because those planets, let's say Venus in the 29th degree of Gemini and Saturn in the 7th degree of Cancer, they can still be in a stellium because they are within a degree orb range, and that's how stellium can happen when one planet's in one sign and another's in another sign. That's because they're still within that 10 degree conjunction range that we need for stellium. So stellium can have positive and negative implications, like all things in life and astrology. So positively, A stellium increases the traits associated with the planets involved, the degree, orbs involved, or the house involved, creating a strong focus on those specific areas of our lives. It can signify intense determination, creativity, and give a deep sense of purpose in pursuing our goals, going after what we want. Negatively, it can bring challenges, a lot of challenges. It can amplify the negatives of all the planets, houses, or degree orbs involved, leading to an overwhelming amount of energy in these areas, and this can cause stress because of the imbalance of, too much of one energy surging on you, and so we may feel more pressure to live up to high expectations, or struggle with integrating the different energies represented by the planets within a transiting stellium. So it blends emotional needs, represented by the moon, our action drive, represented by Mars, and past life patterns, represented by the south nodes, and it wants us to integrate our ego-driven creativity with humble service. So, finding a way of how we can use our creative talents to serve others in a way that fits our temperament, So in terms of the karmic meanings and lessons, it positively wants us to learn to serve others without losing ourselves, developing practical skills that heal and improve and integrate our ego drives, our motivation drives with humble service. Negatively, we can repeat patterns of perfectionist, self-punishment, avoiding leadership through excessive humility, and using service to avoid personal power. So we have to be open to the lesson that true service comes from strength and skill, not weakness or self-sacrifice, and that helping others includes helping yourself, which is a very important lesson to learn. In terms of past life memories and dreams, memories of healing work, craftsmanship, or service roles may come up to guide current practical and health focused work. So lifetimes where you may have been a healer, you may have dreams of these, so it can help you with healing others in healthy ways in this lifetime. But memories of perfectionist, punishment, slavery, or excessive service without recognition may surface for healing, and this may cause confusion and upset. So we have to use any emerging memories of guidance for balanced service that honours both our gifts and our needs. Collectively, it gives us the opportunity to heal collective patterns around work, health, and service, contributing to a more balanced and sustainable social systems and socializing in general. Negatively, collective patterns of workaholism, perfectionist, anxiety, or martyr complex in service work may be activated. So it's important to focus on sustainable service that models healthy boundaries rather than sacrificial service that enables dysfunction and generational dysfunction to continue, and codependency to breed and continue as well. It's all about finding healthy ways to help yourself and others, and to manage yours and others' psychological, physical, financial, and emotional and spiritual needs. Now I'm going to talk about the relationship influences in more depth of Mars in Virgo. So positively, it allows us to take practical action in terms of family relationships to improve them, and to improve family health and well-being, and organise family routines and provide healthful services to family members. But negatively, we can become the family perfectionist or critic, taking on excessive family responsibilities, nitpicking family members' behaviour and criticising them. So it's best to channel the desire to help family into practical support whilst maintaining healthy boundaries and avoiding criticism. In terms of friendships, attracting friends who appreciate your practical skills, mature service and support, and organising social activities efficiently. Negatively, we can become the friend who always fixes everyone's problems and is critical of friends' life choices and has perfectionist expectations in friendships. So we have to balance healthy service to friends with allowing them to solve their own problems and grow through their own experiences. In terms of co-worker relationships, increase productivity and efficiency in the workplace. Relationships helpful for teamwork and taking initiative and practical improvements, but negatively workplace criticism and perfectionism, taking on others' work responsibilities, and conflicts over standards and quality can happen. So we have to use attention to detail to improve workplace efficiency whilst respecting others' different working styles. In terms of committed couples working together on practical relationships improvements, supporting partners' health and growth, and organising shared life efficiency, so helping each other with routines and meeting each other's needs in healthy ways. We just need to watch out for negatively becoming critical of your partner's habits, taking on excessive relationship maintenance, being the one that's doing everything, and perfectionist expectations of the partner. So channel your desire to improve the relationship into supportive action rather than criticism, and maintain individual responsibilities. In terms of hookup relationships, bring practical consideration and health awareness to casual encounters. We can have clear communication about expectations. Negatively, we can overanalyze casual relationships. We can have perfectionist expectations in casual encounters. We can use criticism to maintain emotional distance. So it's important to keep casual relationships appropriately light or to the boundaries what you both agree on, whilst maintaining respect and practical consideration for all involved. Singles and self-partnered, use this independence to perfect self-improvement skills, developing practical abilities and preparing for service-orientated partnerships. Negatively, perfectionist standards can prevent dating, excessive self-criticism, and avoiding relationships through too much focus on self-improvement, so neglecting the side of you that needs love. So it's important to use self-improvement to improve your life, rather than avoid relationship. Readiness, starting them, and balance personal development with openness to connection. In terms of career development, it's great for detailed orientated work, success in health or service professions, and you can build or add to your reputation for reliability and quality and skill mastery. But negatively, it can create stress if you focus too much on career perfectionism, take on excessive work responsibilities, and criticize workplace standards too much. So it's important to channel your motivation, your drive for excellence into sustainable career growth that serves both your development and others' needs. In terms of your personal development, take a systematic approach to self-improvement, practical skill development, and integration of analysis with action, health and fitness focus. Negatively, we can have perfectionist self-criticism, thoughts and words to ourselves, and overanalyze, and this can prevent action. And we can have unrealistic self-improvement standards as well, which is something I battled with and do battle with. So it's very important to give yourself the right time to complete things and realize that sometimes some things don't happen as you want because you're having to wait or improve on something else. This doesn't mean you won't ever achieve this thing, So balance self-improvement efforts with self-acceptance, focus on progress rather than perfection, which is very important. In terms of your spiritual development, it wants you to have a practical application of spiritual principles, discipline, spiritual practice, service as a spiritual path, and healing abilities development. Negatively, it can lead to spiritual perfectionism, over-analysis of spiritual experiences, using service to avoid personal spiritual growth. The advice is to develop spiritual practices that are both disciplined and sustainable, using service as a vehicle for rather than a substitute for personal growth. In terms of your educational development, it's great for detailed study and the practical application of learning. You can have success in health or technical education right now, and it's great for teaching practical skills. But negatively, perfectionist study anxiety or over analysis of educational choices, criticism of educational standards can get in the way of progress or productivity. So it's important to focus on your educational work and developing practical skills that can serve both your growth and others' needs. In terms of self-partner development, it's a great energy to develop practical self-sufficiency, health and wellness mastery, skill development that serves future relationships, but negatively using self-improvement to avoid relationship or other life challenges. And your perfectionist standards can prevent social connection. So balance independent development with skills that will serve relationship and community connection relationships, So now I'm just going to finish up with the best activities for different people to do. So if you're more creative, perfect your artistic or creative techniques through detailed practice, create art that serves healing or practical purpose, and organize creative spaces efficiently, balance artistic perfectionism with creative flow, using technical mastery to serve rather than, constrain, get in the way of your creative expression. Professionals develop routines that increase workplace efficiency, focus on quality and excellence in professional work and output, and take on leadership in practical improvements. So use your attention to detail to improve rather than criticise workplace culture, focus on solutions rather than problems. Entrepreneurs develop businesses focus on health, service or practical improvement, create efficient business systems, routines, focus on quality over quantity, balance perfectionist business standards with practical timelines and sustainable growth strategies. Alternative healers develop technical healing skills, create systematic approaches to healing work, focus on practical healing outcomes, combine intuitive healing abilities with practical training and systematic approaches to serve clients more efficiently. Lovers focus on practical expressions of love through service, improve relationship skills systematically, create efficient romantic routines, balance practical relationship work with spontaneous romantic expression, use improvement efforts to enchant rather than control love. For those who are single and self-partnered, develop practical life skills and focus on health and service care systematically and prepare for future-orientated relationships. Use independence to develop qualities that will serve future relationships rather than perfectionist standards that prevent connection. So now I'm just going to finish up with some questions that you can ask yourself about the different areas of your life to help you, use this energy more efficiently. So in terms of your financial needs, you can ask, how can I channel my drive for improvement into sustainable financial growth without perfectionist paralysis? What practical financial skills do I need to develop to serve both my security and my ability to help others? How can I balance detailed financial planning with trust in the natural flow of abundance? And this can help you avoid financial anxiety through over control whilst maintaining practical financial responsibility. Because Virgo energy wants us to serve others, but financial stability is necessary for sustainable service. In terms of your emotional needs, you can ask yourself, what emotional patterns am I trying to perfect or control instead of simply accepting and working with? Because Mars in Virgo can create perfectionist approaches to emotional life that increase rather than decrease suffering. You can ask yourself, how can I express anger and assertiveness in ways that serve improvement rather than criticism? And this can help you channel Mars's energy constructively, productively rather than destructively. In terms of your emotional expression, you can ask yourself, what would change in my relationships if I focus on serving love rather than perfecting people? And this can help us understand how Virgo's desire to improve can interfere with accepting and loving others as they are. In terms of our spiritual needs, how can I serve others spiritually without losing myself in martyrdom or spiritual perfectionism? And this can help us find sustainable ways to serve that honour both our spiritual calling and human needs. We can ask ourselves, what practical spiritual disciplines support my growth without without becoming too inflexible or compulsive. And you can ask yourself, how can I integrate my spiritual understanding with practical action in the world? And this helps us develop spiritual practices that serve growth rather than feed perfectionist tendencies, and it avoids us using spiritual bypassing, and also avoid purely materialistic action, just focusing on money and our materialistic needs rather than the needs of our emotions and soul and higher consciousness and our psychological needs. In terms of questions to help you think about your psychological needs, you can ask yourself, what aspects of myself am I trying to perfect instead of accepting and working with constructively? This can help us understand the difference between healthy self-improvement and perfectionist self-rejection. You can ask yourself, how can I channel my critical thinking abilities towards solutions rather than problems? And this can help us use Virgo's analytical abilities constructively rather than destructively. You can ask yourself, what would my life look like if I applied the same compassionate service to myself that I offer others? And this helps us to include ourselves in the cycle of care and service. So in terms of your physical needs, you can ask yourself, how can I approach health and fitness with sustainable dedication rather than perfectionist extremes? Because Mars in Virgo can create compulsive health behaviours or perfectionist and fitness standards that get in the way of us being fulfilled in other areas of our life, right? We can ask ourselves, what does my body actually need versus what I think it should need based on external standards? And this helps us listen to our body's wisdom rather than impose external perfectionist standards of what, a woman or a man or a non-binary or anyone should look like. And you can ask yourself, how can I use physical action and movement to serve both my well-being and my ability to help others? So to close this down now, Mars transiting entering Virgo represents a deep and meaningful invitation to transform our relationship with action, perfectionism and service. You will discover that true warrior energy serves healing rather than conquest, that real strength comes from skill rather than force, and that the highest expression of personal power is contained within meaningful contribution to collective well-being and looking after your own needs first, but not forgetting to help others where and when you can. The complex web of aspects that happens at the time of Mars entering Virgo bring challenges and opportunities, asking you to integrate passion with precision, focus, routine, individual drive with humble service, and personal improvement with acceptance and imperfection. Reminding us that, the tension that we can feel between spiritual compassion, intellectual connection and practical action can be channeled into creativity and selfless service in the right productive ways. This is our moment to become a conscious warrior, someone who fights for what matters, serves what they love and takes action that truly makes a difference. Remember that perfection is not the goal, progress is. Your desire to improve and serve is beautiful, but it must be balanced with acceptance of what is and compassion for the messiness of real life, And true mastery comes not from flawless execution, but from the willingness to keep practicing, serving and growing through both success and mistakes. So the astrological surgeon is ready. So let your passion serve precision, your drive serve healing, and your warrior energy serve love. So that's the end of this in-depth special on all things Mars transiting in Virgo. My name's Amani, your holistic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.